We are a week and a half away from the NFL draft. The Browns do not pick till number 54, but that will not stop us from enjoying Mock Draft Mondays. We used ESPN's draft simulator for this round of mock drafts. And Earl, you're up first. How did you think the Browns mock draft fell when you ran it through ESPN's mock draft simulator?
I thought my draft was pretty solid. I went best player available at positions of need that I thought the Browns had. I don't know if you have it up there.
So you didn't draft by position. You drafted best available.
I just drafted best available player. You know, Chris Broswell, for example, ranked 42nd ranked player in the draft, getting him at 54. The Browns really don't have much depth at the linebacker position. Michael Hall Jr., defensive tackle from Ohio State. Anytime that you can get a Buckeye in a Cleveland Browns uniform, I think all the fans is for that. MJ Devonshire, you know, Greg Newsome, fifth-year option is a thing that'll be picked up, but the cornerback position will probably be a position of need, maybe a season or two. So a guy that you can, you know, kick the can down the road on. Javion Cohen is a combo offensive lineman. We all know Andrew Berry loves versatility on the offensive line. And then in typical Andrew Berry fashion, I went and got a wide receiver late. So that was my draft. But I went best position available for each pick. So that was what I did.
Interesting.
Jason, you're up next.
Well, this didn't go the way I wanted it to when Mike first told me, because I say all the time that, like, I just think the Browns take receivers too late and they need to widen the target and take a receiver early. So I had intended to try and take a receiver in the second round. But when I did the simulation, Jonathan Brooks was there, who might be the best running back in the entire draft. And so I had to jump on that because just the uncertainty with Nick Chubb and the uncertainty beyond this year. And Brooks played in an RPO style in Texas, had one really good year, tore his knee up.
Brooks wasn't available in the draft I did.
Oh,
It's a simulator, so it depends.
Yeah, I'm just saying, like, he wasn't. I don't know when he went, but he wasn't available.
Yeah, well, he was available in mine, and I told Mike I took the running back from USC.
FSU, Trey Benson.
I'm sorry, yeah, from Florida State. And he said, yeah, a lot of people are mocking him to that. And I looked at him like, oh, wait a minute. No, it was the guy from Texas, Jonathan Brooks. Only because, like I said, he had 1 year as a starter. They've obviously had a ton of good running backs come through there with Bijan Robinson and the rest. And he played in an RPO style system. I think he would fit well here and maybe could be a long-term replacement depending on what happens with Chubb. And then, I mean, in the third round, Brendan Rice, that's royalty right there. That's Jerry Rice's kid. So here we go again with another third-round receiver for the Browns.
I had said a couple of weeks ago I would take Brendan Rice in the third round, and you had said, oh, he's mocked fifth or sixth round. I still think that's way too low for him.
I don't scout these dudes.
I know, but
has
his stock risen collectively? Because I see there he's ranked 80th, and you took him 85th. So
I'll pull up a bunch of different.
I love that pick.
Right. Yeah, I mean, I'm kind of making fun of myself taking a receiver in the third round for the Browns, given their lack of success.
Yeah, the last thing you want to do is.
But I mean, Jerry Rice's kid. There's some genes there at least, and there's some talent and ability there, obviously. So, I mean, that seemed like an easy one. And now after that, and plus also I kind of had the feeling of you're trying to just. If this is all about Deshaun and giving Deshaun as many weapons as you can, well, then you better load up with a running back or receiver. I don't know how – we talked the other day. I don't know how many rookies they actually can carry on their 53. It's not that many.
3, maybe 4?
Yeah. So I just went all special teams after the first 2 picks.
For diverse guys that can give you that
guys that can help you on special teams. Yeah. Maris Leofau from Notre Dame. Could be a JOK replacement down the road, possibly. Plays like his hair's on fire, you know. And then beyond that,
where the hell's JOK going?
Well, he's in last year of his contract. You think?
Yeah, yeah.
I don't know if they're going to pay for a linebacker.
Well, typically this franchise doesn't do that.
I just, and I'm not saying that guy's, you know, I don't know if they're drafting his replacement now, but I'm just saying, if he's in the last year of his deal, I don't know if they're bringing him back. I don't know if they're going to value linebacker or not.
They don't.
Yeah, I don't know if they're going to pay big money. I don't know. I have no idea right now what type of deal he could command. Like, I have paid zero attention to the going rate on young linebackers. But if he puts up another monster year.
Well, the league in general, as a trend, has devalued them. But it's funny, when you look at the teams that do really well,
Yeah, good linebackers.
They're stalwarts at linebacker.
I mean, ask
Look
the
at
Ravens.
San Francisco.
Ask the
Look
Ravens.
at the
San
Ravens.
Francisco about the
Right.
importance of
I mean, they
linebackers.
laughed that the rest of the league has
Yeah.
devalued them. And
Yeah.
part of that, I think, correct me if I'm wrong here, but I think part of that is Mr. Moneyball thinks that linebacker is like a utility infielder.
I don't know.
I feel like he's driving the bus on the, linebackers are a dime a dozen. And they're not.
Well, in Jim Schwartz's system, it's a devalued position. Jim focuses most of the attention on the line.
I get that.
And then the secondary, and then the linebackers.
Yeah.
So it's not even just DePodesta. That was explained early on to me with Schwartz's system. It's very much defensive line wreaking havoc, causing chaos on that defensive
Heavy
line.
rotation, keep them fresh.
And then
I get
the
that.
secondary, and then the linebackers.
And I still, if I'm prioritizing the groups, I'm still going line, back end, middle.
Yeah.
But I think the gap between 2 and 3 and prioritizing is way too big. Like, I think it's decidedly you got to be strong up front.
Yeah.
I think that is by far the most important unit.
Yeah.
But then I think the back end and the middle are close.
Yeah.
I'm still going to prioritize the back end because it's a passing league. But with the advent of the tight ends running routes and matching up against linebackers, you can be exposed real quickly if your linebackers suck.
Yeah, absolutely.
And so with that in mind, by the way, all the players that were drafted, and what do they have, 6 picks?
6 picks.
5
5
picks. So 15 players were drafted in our mocks. We didn't have the same guy. Nobody had the same guy.
Well, Jay, you ready for yours? Steve,
Yeah, throw mine up there.
Yep.
I went wide receiver. I went Ricky Pearsall just because, and I'm gonna be very upfront here. The talent that I know coming out are from the games that I watch.
Sure.
So I feel really comfortable assessing the skill set of the Big Ten players and of the players from the blue chips at the other schools.
Yes.
I did see Ricky Pearsall enough to say I think he can get separated. I think he can be an NFL wide receiver. He was available. I don't know if he was available for you guys. I took him.
He was, because I looked at that.
Yeah.
I looked at that.
And it's funny, you always say you win in the margins.
Yeah.
I don't want the Browns waiting to the 3rd round to draft a wide receiver because apparently that's too late for them. So,
I'm with you. I wanted to take a receiver,
but
and then I
the
saw
fact
the
that
running
you got
back.
Brendan Wright, like the fact that he's there.
Yeah.
And look, he could flame out just because his dad is the all-time greatest to ever do it.
Yeah.
Doesn't mean that he's going to have success.
Correct.
But I like his chances. Just like when I factor in Marvin Harrison,
Yeah.
I have to factor in who his dad is.
Yeah.
You know, so I think that that's a big part of it. Also, Jerry's work ethic was like Walter Payton-esque.
Yes.
He was very famous for taking care of his body and playing into his 40s. And so I just tend to think that is a trait that's passed down, work ethic.
Mm-hmm. And
so I like that because that's an immeasurable. You don't know what that is unless you just interview everybody. My second pick in the 3rd round, I have to be honest with you, I don't know Cedric Gray. If he walked in right now with his uniform, I'd say, who are you?
Yeah.
I don't know him. He was the highest linebacker available in my mind.
There you go.
So I said, I, as a fan and as an observer, think that the Browns have undervalued that position too much. I understand you're devaluing it, but I think we've just been like, oh yeah, and who do we got to play linebacker? Yeah, bring those 3 in.
Yeah.
They're our linebackers. I don't think you win that way. So I went with the highest available linebacker because I do think those are our 2 areas of greatest need. Then I'm terrified of our offensive line.
yes.
That is a real weakness. So with picks 3 and 4 in the 5th and 6th round, I went with a couple of linemen. Again, if these guys spit in my face, I wouldn't know who they were.
Yeah.
They were the highest available linemen, so I took them. And then Harrell from Michigan, I just remember watching him and him being an impact guy when I did watch Michigan. And I went back to linebacker, so I'm really big on there are 3 weaknesses to me: a wide receiver, offensive line, and linebacker.
Yeah.
So I loaded up, and we'll see what happens.
It's funny because going into it, I wanted offensive tackle, guard. I keep saying, like, you can't keep paying these guards $17 million.
No.
Batoniu's getting older, and you're going to have to make choices here. So, like, my intention was a receiver in the 2nd round, take guards, maybe tackle, because I agree, like, I don't know what's going on with Jed Wills on the 5th-year option. What happens after that? DeWine, you're always going to be concerned about injuries with him because he's just so massive.
Yeah.
So you're always going to be worried about knees, ankles, that sort of thing.
Sure.
So and yet then I come out of it with none of those guys.
Yeah.
See, it's funny
You got
because
blinded by the light.
I was looking for
But I kind of went with Earl of just
That's
taking
best available.
Yeah, see, and that's kind of like my thinking. I want a wide receiver too, but when the draft simulator, the way it fell, no wide receivers was available as said picks that I
you
felt
liked.
that I felt like I wasn't reaching for. And so when I seen Chris Broswell from Alabama, okay, Alabama linebackers tend to play pretty well in the NFL, and out of all the positions on the Browns roster, linebacker seems to be the one with the least amount of depth to it.
Yeah.
I kept trying to find a wide receiver each round. I said, you know what? I'm not going to force it. And so I just started looking ahead to next year. The Browns got all their draft picks next year. You guys like Ibuka, who's coming out, Travis Hunter from Colorado will probably be coming out. So just like it's a lot of top draft prospects at wide receiver this year, I think the wide receiver position coming out of college next year be strong to where if the Browns and Andrew Berry don't get the coveted wide receiver they want this year, don't force it. Draft depth, draft best player available,
right.
And you can go get your home run wide receiver in the draft next year. Because if you're telling me, like, as bad as we know, like, guys wanted Marvin Harrison Jr., probably no shot at that. But if you got a shot at a Travis Hunter and then Ibuka has a good year at Ohio State this year and he's coming out next year, I'm cool with that as well.
Yeah, you'd have to finish poorly, though, this year to get a wide receiver, one of those top wide receivers. You know, you're going to need a draft pick.
Yeah, I mean, we'll have our first round pick next year, though.
We have it, but
Right.
if you win a playoff game, you're picking 20
In the 20s.
But you'll still get a pretty
But
good
you'll still
receiver.
get a pretty good wide receiver
Yeah, but you
because
won't
they
get the cream of the
typically.
crop.
No, you're not going to get.
You know, the difference makers this year will be off the
Well,
board by
we
10.
think that because you got to think back to when Justin Jefferson was drafted. I think he was like the 18th pick of the
Yeah,
draft.
that was a weird draft, though.
Yeah, so I mean, you'll get a solid
I
wide
want to
receiver
ask
in
you a
round one.
question. So, in all your years doing this and in talking to general managers and experts that have covered the draft, because I really think of all of the NFL experts,
Yeah.
the guys that I put the most stock in are the draft guys because they're so immersed in it, and it's kind of one lane to be. They don't have to be, you know. They don't,
Yep.
Do you find that there is a more predominant theory or a more successful theory between best available and drafting to your needs?
I think it depends on the team. And full disclosure, like, I'm biased, obviously. I work at The Athletic. I think Dane Brugler is the best out there.
Unbelievable.
He's coming on
yeah.
next Monday, by the
Oh,
way.
Is he?
really?
Monday
Wow.
or Tuesday, but he's coming on next week for the draft.
Local guy.
Great.
And that's not why. I mean, go find the beast that
Yeah.
he puts out. I'd put him up against Kuiper or anyone else that ESPN has.
Yeah.
Dane does an unbelievable
Well, some of those guys
job.
are living on reputation.
I literally
Yes.
was reading him this morning before I came downstairs.
The detail that he has, and I used
and the
his.
amount, the information he has.
Yes, and the family backgrounds on all of these guys, the detail that he goes into. I hope that we keep him for another 15 years. I'm afraid ESPN's going to steal him from
No,
us.
I think
he's sensational.
If I'm a team,
Yeah.
you know, Mel Kiper famously tells the story that years ago the Baltimore Ravens offered him a job. He's a Baltimore guy.
Yeah.
And it was a difficult decision for him. But he said ultimately I'm undefeated in this year.
Yeah.
I don't have to you know, my record comes and goes.
Mike Mayock looked a lot better on NFL Network than he
I
did.
was just going to go to Mayock. He looked really smart until he did it in reality.
Yep.
So I'm fascinated by those two competing theories.
Yep.
I've talked to a lot of general managers. I've talked to a lot of our former ESPN experts.
Yeah.
And it's so close, I don't know that I can say, to me it's definitively draft to need. But I do feel like there is a slight advantage in both success rate in reality and also what the experts think you should do. Mm-hmm. It's more, I believe, and I don't know what it is, 55-45, but I do believe that drafting to need and not best available is both the most utilized and the most effective of the two.
It depends on the team. It depends. If you have obviously if you need a quarterback, how many teams have we seen miss on first-round quarterbacks because they were so desperate?
It's the hardest position to forecast.
Yeah. So, sometimes your need is so glaring, it's clear what you have to do.
I agree.
And then there's franchises like the Steelers and the Ravens that just, back in the day, the Steelers just drafted linebackers in the first round every year. They didn't need them. They just drafted another one.
Right.
And they just kept cranking
4
them
years
out.
later, no new contract for you. You next up.
That's exactly it.
That's how they did it.
And it was unbelievable, the machine that they would just crank through there because they just took the best guy. the better teams that don't have the glaring holes, and I would put the Browns in this category, can afford to draft best available because you don't have that glaring need. The Browns aren't going to this draft going, oh my God, we got to find a second receiver to pair with Amari Cooper. And now you're really pigeonholing yourself into what you have to do. But there's other teams out there with holes all over the place. The Carolina Panthers, they're drafting on need. There's no question that they're looking at needs and they're drafting on needs. But the teams, it's almost like the teams at the bottom of the draft are the better teams that are better positioned to just take the best talent that's in front of them. Yeah, the Browns don't need a cornerback. Maybe they take a cornerback.
I like that you said it depends on the team, because the answer that I got from the Kuipers and all of the experts, McShay, what they used to say is, when you're at the bottom, you need everything.
Yes. Yeah.
So you're just going to take the best available.
Yeah.
Because odds are, whatever position that player plays, you need one.
Well, yes and no. I mean, if you have holes at 3 or 4 different spots, but you got a big-time receiver, are you really going to take another big-time playmaking receiver?
But the odds are, if you've got a big-time receiver, you're not picking first. I mean, like typically the teams that pick first suck everywhere.
And plus the NFL, I think, is a different beast than any other sport because there's so many more injuries.
Yeah, you can't build on draft after draft like you can in baseball.
Aside from quarterback, because if you have a franchise quarterback, you're not probably taking another quarterback in the first round. But aside from quarterback, unless you're the Packers, there are so many injuries that you just can't count on, well, we have this star here, because he could be gone tomorrow like that.
Yeah. It just feels good in this city to be light years removed from looking for a rookie to be the saving grace, right? We talk all the time about the Browns need a receiver, the Browns need a receiver. This is not 2011 when you're looking at Greg Little to come in here and be your saving grace on offense, right? Lord. Or Brian Rubisky or on defense and Cameron Wembley, et cetera. I can remember so many different Cleveland Browns drafts to where, as a fan, it's like, okay, this first-round pick or this second-round pick, I'm depending on this dude to change the fortunes of the Cleveland Browns franchise. Yeah. And to see how this thing has been organically built out, the culture that's changed, the depth on the roster, the talent on this roster, to where you can go into this draft in 2024 and know, okay, we need guys for depth. We need guys that might be, priority or rotational players down the road, 2 or 3 seasons down the road. It feels good from a fan perspective to be in that position for the Cleveland Browns versus what we're used to.
Free agents, I've said this before, free agency is really about fixing your draft mistakes. Mm-hmm. If you draft well, you don't need free agency.
Exactly. Right, exactly.
Because as guys move on, you've got guys to plug and play. But if you miss on your draft picks, that's where a trade for Jerry Jeudy comes in, because they've missed on how many wide receiver picks.
And not only missed, but if you just don't have the capital. Like in the Browns case, you're without a first-round pick for 3 years. Any expert is going to tell you that's going to leave a serious mark unless you go out in free agency and you sign quality plug-and-play guys that are ready.
Right. Yeah.
And so, it is the great eraser in the NFL in building a team is free agency. Gabriel Arias singled in the 6th. He has the 2 hits that Cutter Crawford has allowed. Jeez. There's 2 outs in the top of the 6th. He's at first base.
Yep. And it is still 0-0.
But Curry's also given up 2 hits.
Curry's pitching very well.
That's great.
And he's into the 6th.
3 strikeouts, 1 walk, 2 hits, and 5 innings of work.